Lord and our Father in heaven, we thank you for this time, Lord, that we have gathered, Lord, for this class. God, I thank you for every person that is here, Lord. I pray that you grant us understanding, be with us, Lord, and help us to revise through everything. In Jesus' name we pray, amen. All right, so it's a question on the national income. And all that is there is that everything has been given theoretically. All we need to do now is to put it in terms of mathematics. So it says the table below gives you some information about the Zambian economy. The Keynesian model assumes that there is a level of consumption even without income. So that amount is 236 million minus 216 million, which is equal to 20 million. So 20 million will be consumed when income equals 0. Assume the taxes are 0.2 of real income. Let the marginal propensity to save of after-tax income be 0.1. The level of investment is 70. The level of government spending is 80, and the level of exports is 50 million. Imports are 0.2 after-tax income, so meaning that's the import function. The marginal propensity to import is 0.2. So that's 0.2 y. So that means if you're writing down imports, you write m is equal to 0.2 y. So given these values, you are required to complete the table below using the information provided. So national income, we have that. Then you have taxes, after-tax income, consumption, IG plus X, then you have imports and aggregate expenditure. So aggregate expenditure just means the total expenditure, right? So all that we need to do now is to find the after-tax income. So we've been given the tax. I want us to go back up. All right. So after filling that table, then now you can answer the questions that are below. So the first thing I think that we need is to find the taxes. All right. Now let us go up there. It says, let's go on the part where it's talking about taxes. It says, assume that taxes are 0.2 of real GDP, right? That's our tax. So in other ways, the government is collecting tax here using the tax rate, right? So taxes are 0.2. So all that you need is 0.2 of every one of these. So what we need here, okay, let me use the whiteboard. They have said it's 0.2, right? So in other ways, they're saying taxes are equal to 0.2y, like this. So we just have the tax rate like this. This is tax. So all that we need to do for the first one, it's 0.2, which is 20% of what is our y. So our y, we go back to the question, our y for the first one is 300, right? So we put that 300 where there's y. So 300 here. What is this? On a calculator, 0.2 times that will give us
60.
60. All right, so taxes there is 60. So you put down the 60 there and you do the same for the rest. So for the next one, what do we have? Our y is 400, right? So you find 0.2 times 400. This one will be 500 times 0.2. So you fill this one here, just like that. Then you fill up the taxes. Okay? Is that okay? So that's how you find.
Mr.
Right.
Duncan, just repeat what you said.
This is what I'm saying. Taxes are 0.2. Tax is equal to, they have told us it's 0.2y. 0.2 of income. So if our income for the first one was 300, so you put 300. So it says 0.2 times 300. So it depends on what they've given you. So here they've just told us taxes as 0.2, which is 20% of income. So at each level of income, you get to put the amount, then you multiply by 0.2. So national income for the first one is 300. So you say 0.2 times 300, you put down there for the first one here. For the second box, we have 400. So it's 0.2 times 400. 0.2 times 500, 0.2 times just like that. Then you fill up the whole thing. That is all. Then you're done with taxes. All right. Now we can move on, right? So moving on to the second one, it says after tax income. After tax, meaning after you have taxed, what is your income? So you just get your income, then you subtract the tax that you found. So for the first one, for example, our income was 300, right? According to this, right? Our income was 300. So after tax means it's the disposable income. It's Y minus the T, meaning after tax, right? So if it was 300, you subtract the tax here was 600. What? 240. That's all. Go for the next one again. What is your income? It's 400 minus the tax that is there. And we do the same for every one of them. So we come back here. Whatever tax we would have found here, and just get the number that is there. For example, for the first one, it was 300 minus 60. For the next one, it will be 400 minus the tax that you found. 500 minus the tax that you found, just like that for all of them. That is the after-tax income. Okay? Oh, good. So now the next one that is there, it says consumption. Now, consumption, you can only determine consumption when you know the consumption function. So there you get to pause and you need to go back to the question that is down there, which says find the consumption function. Because without the consumption function, you can't determine consumption. You can only determine the consumption which has been given as the autonomous consumption, right? So let us go back and find the consumption function. So to find the consumption function, we know that consumption is made up of two things. Let me just connect my cable. Okay, so here's how we come up with the consumption function. So the consumption function is given by, okay, let me erase this. All right, so we know that C, the consumption function C is equal to A plus CY, right? I think these are the abbreviations the lecturer uses. This is a consumption function, right? Now, this A is the autonomous consumption, then the B, the C is the marginal propensity to consume, then this is the Y, the disposable income, meaning the income after tax. So what we have is, we have the consumption function, right? We have the A is the one which does not depend on income. So if we go back to our question, we need to get our A. It's the consumption when income is 0, the one which does not depend on income. So it says, you can see here that it says the Keynesian model assumes that there is some level of consumption even without income. That amount is 236, right? 236 minus 216, which is equal to 20 million. So in other ways, it's 20, isn't it? So we can put 20 there. So where there's A, we'll put 20. So consumption function with 20, then plus, what is our C, which is our marginal propensity to consume, right? So we can go back, everything is here. So it says 20 million when national income is equal to 0. So it says assume the taxes are 0.2, and then let the marginal propensity to save after tax income be 0.1. Okay, so I've been given the MPS instead of the MPC. But we know that there's a relationship between the two, so we can easily find, right? So what we have is the MPS is equal to 0.1. So, but we know that MPC plus the MPS will give us 1, right? So I've been given, so we need MPC plus the MPS is 0.1, which is equal to 1, meaning our MPC is equal to what? 1 minus 0.1, which means it will be equal to 0.9. So this right here is our MPC. So we find our MPC, we put here, this will be 0.9, then we'll put this as YD, we leave it as YD. Then this is your consumption function. Okay, so you would have answered the question that is below. Okay, so we would have answered this question that says, what is the consumption function? All right, that is all. So meaning now, if we have to find consumption, all right, for this now, we can now answer this consumption column here. So for example, consumption for the first one, it's our income is 300. Then we subtracted the taxes. What's our disposable income, our YD? For the first one, we found 240, right? So I'll put 240 there. So it means I'll say for the first one, when income is 300, isn't it? So when income is 300, so you don't put 300 there. When income is 300, our YD, we found what? Our YD is the 300 minus the tax, which was the amount we found after tax. So you'd have already calculated your after tax, all right? So you can see here, they asked us to calculate the after tax. So you needed to calculate this row, this column rather, the after tax, so that when you're calculating the consumption, you just put it there. You don't have to start doing the minus because you'd have already calculated. So the after tax income is the YD, which is the disposable income. So all that you need to do is at this point, we just replace. So we had already found our after tax, right? Of which our after tax was 240 for the first one, right? So we just put 240 there. So we're going to say for the first one, consumption will be equal to 20, which is it's in millions. So our answer should be also in million, okay? So this is 20 plus 0.9. Then our after tax was 240 for the first one. So put a 240 there. So we just saw what's 20. So what's 0.9 times that? What is that giving us? 0.9 times 240?
That's 216.
216? 216, right? Okay, so
Yes.
our final answer will be what? What will be this? 216 plus 20?
236.
Yeah, 230. So 236 is our consumption at that level. So you do the same for all of them. So now you change, you go for the next one, you do 220 plus 0.9 multiplied by, now you find the after tax for the second one. You put it there, then you find the answer. Then you fill up that consumption function at the consumption column. This one. Okay, that's how you find consumption. Is that okay? All right. So now you go to the I plus G plus X. So all that you need to do for this one, just get your I, add it with the G and the X. So our X is our exports. All right. Imports are represented by M or Z. I hope we're okay with the abbreviation. So this X represents the exports. Imports are either represented by the letter M or Z. So this is I plus G plus export. So investment, government expenditure, and exports. So what is our investment here? So everything has been given. This says I think it's right here. After the marginal propensity to save, which is 0.1, says the level of investment is 70, the level of government spending is 80, and the level of exports is 50. So all we need to do for this column is just to get this 70, which is investment, plus the G, 80, plus 50, which is for exports. What's the answer? If we get 70 plus 80 plus 50?
200.
200, right? So it will be 200 throughout. Okay. Remember, why are they going to be 300 throughout? This is because these things are autonomous. They don't depend on the level of income. So regardless of the national level of income, you've seen income is increasing, right? It doesn't change as income increases or income changes. These are autonomous, okay? So they'll just remain to be, so just put 200 throughout. They're fixed. Then you go for imports. Okay, now how to put down for imports. Imports, look at this. After the 50 for exports, it says imports as 0.2 of after-tax income. So what we're going to write down that is that imports, in terms of mathematics, the formula is this. It says it's after. So what we're going to have is this. Our imports, which is M, okay, are going to be given as 0.1. Okay, sorry, not this. It's 0.1. We're going to say this is equal to 0.1. I think it says 0.1, right? Of after-tax income. After-tax income is the YD. So you put as YD like this. So this is going to be the formula that you use for all of them, after-tax income. Sometimes they'll write to you to say imports are 0.1 of, they just say income. Then that means you get the 300 that was there. So for example, if they just said, if they didn't say after-tax income, they just said income, then it will now matter which one you're going to be getting. So you need to be careful. After tax, you get the income that is here. If they just said income, you would have gotten, for example, for the first one, our imports will be 300. So it was the national income is 300, but our after tax was 240, isn't it? So for the first one, it means if we collect our inputs, we're going to put down 0.1 like this. So this will be 0.1 times our after tax for the first one is 240. So what is this one? 0.1 times 240?
24.
24?
Is the input 0.1 or 0.2?
Isn't it 0.2?
For the imports, let me check again. Oh, it's 0.2, yeah. So we put 0.2 there. So say 0.2 times, so this is 0.2. So 0.2 times 240, what is that giving us?
48.
Yeah, so 48 is our imports, okay? You do the same for the rest. You just change where there is YD, where you put the 240, you put the respective after tax that you found. All right. So that is on how you find that one. Then the last one is says aggregate expenditure. So aggregate expenditure, you know to say aggregate expenditure is just the C plus I plus G plus NX. So you have your consumption, which is the C, which would have calculated, I believe. Then you would have also calculated at this point, your table should now be full at every point, right? So you'd have already calculated your after-tax income, you would have calculated your consumption, your I, your G, which we said was 200, and imports, and then the aggregate expenditure is just aggregate means total. So what's C plus I plus G plus NX? All right. So we can just maybe calculate for the first one, what's our consumption? I think we found consumption to be what? Let me check it out. I think I have it here. So we found, yeah, it's here. Our consumption is here. So we found our C. So we know aggregate expenditure is the AD, which is equal to C plus I plus G plus NX, which is exports minus the imports. So what is our C? Our C, we found 236, yeah, up there. Then the I, so we added up these, right? I think we had one number for these, right? Which was 200. So just say plus 200, then minus, what's the imports? The imports at that point. So for the first one, that one, we found the 240, right? So we say minus 48. We found this 48. So we say minus 48, which will be equal to, you just add up these, you put these on the calculator. What's this giving us? This will have a 36 minus 48. It's negative, right? It's a negative number, isn't it? I think
Yes, it's negative 12.
Negative 12? Negative 12, right? Yeah, so but I forgot to mention this. You can see that all the numbers here that we have, take a look at the units. I think they are in millions. You've seen it? So what you need to do is put, if you found that it's negative 12 million, all right? 12 million, is that okay? And why it can be negative, okay? And the reason why it can be negative is to show that what firms are planning to spend, there's something that is called unplanned and planned investment. So it means here firms are selling their inventories. I think if you are there when you did the class on planned and unplanned investment. So if you find a negative, it means firm are selling more than they were planning to sell. So it's like, for example, there's plan, you go out in the market and you say, I want to sell 10 shoes. Then you find yourself selling 12. So meaning you went with the 10, you sold them, but then you went back to the factory to get those that you kept to say you're going to sell in future. Okay, that's what it is. So that's negative 12 million there. Then you do the same for the other one. You find for all of them. Is that okay? So you find for 300, we found for this one and this one, just like that. So you just get this part. So in other ways here, what we're getting is just the after tax here. We forget about it. We get the C, the consumption, IGX, then you say minus this, the imports. All right, that's all. Oh, good. Yeah. So we would have found all the aggregate expenditures there. So now the question is, what is the equilibrium? Yes.
Excuse me. Before you proceed,
Mhm.
I'm looking at what you have expended on the aggregate, but then we're having 236, 200, then you have done minus 48. So which one is the government expenditure there?
Okay, let me come back. All right, so for this one, I said, remember there is a part in the, I want you to look at the table, the part of the table which says I plus G plus X, right? Which you already calculated as the 200 for the first one. Take a look at this. At the table, there is a place where it says I plus G plus X, right? Then we added up the I was, we have the information up here. The level of investment was 70, government expenditure was 80, the level of exports was 50. You get it? Then we add them up, these three, which is what we have here, IGX, we found 200. So it's 200 throughout here.
Yes, I got that part, but it's on the so you said that is C plus I plus G minus
Yes, so you remember the yes, the AD is C plus I plus G plus NX. Now NX it's exports minus imports, right? Now we already have the C, which is on its own, right? Then these three are
which is
put together.
236.
Yes, these three have been put
Okay.
which we have as a 200.
Okay.
So it will be 200 for all of them. So all you need to
Okay.
be doing is, it's like we have the formula for the AD as C plus 200 minus M. So these are not changing. The only thing that will be changing for all of them will be the C and the M. So, but the M, you know, these are imports, so we say minus M. So you just be placing your M and your C at each point. So for example, for the first point, you go and check your consumption, which you would have found. So you get back here. I believe you can see it, right? You can see your consumption, which you had, and your imports. This part remains the same. Then you find your aggregate expenditure.
Okay, thank you, it's clear.
All right. Then for the next one, it says, what is the equilibrium income? So for the equilibrium income here, you don't have to start calculating. Okay, there's no time. So all that you need to check is check where the one which will have income equal to AD, the aggregate expenditure. So if you find, for example, let's say for 600, when income is 600, then you also find this side, you find expenditure 600. Then you will say 600 is the equilibrium income. So, but you would have filled in everything at this point. So check which one, where national income is equal to AD. You check which point, then that will be your equilibrium income. Or if you want, you can start all over and start calculating the way we calculate equilibrium income, but there's no time, obviously. You can even see it's just been given 2 marks. So you just get to see which one is having equal, where the AD is equal to the aggregate expenditure. Okay?
I think I didn't get that one.
Yeah, I was saying at equilibrium, there is something that is true, is why the income, at equilibrium, income, national income, which is the GDP, is equal to aggregate expenditure, or aggregate demand is the same thing. So all I'm saying is, you can see that we have equilibrium, we have income and aggregate expenditure. So at which point are they equal? So you can take a look at this. If we're back here, we have our national income on the left, all right, far left, and on the far right, we have aggregate expenditure, isn't it? So you check which one is going to, we're only going to have 1 point that will obviously be equal. So for example, you check, let's say for the first one, if it was 300, then you take a look at the aggregate expenditure, you also find 300. Then you say 300 is the equilibrium income.
Okay.
Yeah, so check which one you would have filled in, you would have found all of them aggregate. Obviously, you'll find one of them will have them, will have the equilibrium income equal to that other one, okay?
Okay.
All right, then the last question says, why is a national income of 300 not at equilibrium? So you say it's not at equilibrium.
Mr. Duncan, can I take you back behind?
sure.
The,
Yes.
replacing, is it the 236 plus 200 minus 48? I think I'm a bit behind. What's the answer here?
Which one? For this?
AD, which is 6 AD.
Yeah. For this one, where we have the imports, this part?
AD, that where it is 236 plus 200 plus 48.
Yeah, this one I was saying, the C, we're calculating for the first one. What was our consumption? The C that we found. Well, our consumption we found up
It was
see here. We have this 236. That was when income was 240. For the first one, when national income was 300.
yes,
So we
yes.
calculated our consumption, which we found as 230. Then now, since they have
236,
asked us to
yes.
calculate aggregate expenditure is C plus I plus G plus NX, isn't it? So now this IG
Yes.
200. So this is the plus the 200.
Yes.
Now, what is our consumption? Our consumption at that level is 236. Then we have the
Yes.
the imports were 48. So we're subtracting the imports because our formula says C plus I plus G plus the NX is exports minus imports.
Yes.
So I've done exports, which we know that these three are, they say 200. Then minus the imports at that point, we have 448 from this point here. I calculated the 48 here. Of which we found
So you started
negative 12. So
with the
huh?
you started with the subtraction first.
No, whichever here, this is just addition and subtraction. You can add them. You can just put these numbers on the calculator. They will give you this. Whichever you want. Even if you start with the subtraction, you start with addition. It's the same thing.
So you're saying 236 plus 200 minus 48 is 12.
Yes. Just punching this in the calculator, you'll find 12. All right. Okay. Hope you're
Is it
okay.
not 388?
It's 388.
It's 388?
Yes.
Our calculators are lying to us. Huh? 236. 236 minus minus.
So that's why
Then
I'm
who
kind
lied to us?
of
There's
lost.
someone here who lied to us, isn't it? What's that calculator? All right. Anyways, the class is going to cut now. But yeah, I think I get your point. It's not actually that. Yeah, it's 236. I was doing minus.
388.
Yeah, so 236. Yeah, 236 plus 200 minus 48. Yeah, it's 388.
388.
388.
Yes, 388 is actually the answer. All right, 388 million is actually a positive number. All right. Anyways, let's
Yes.
continue in the next class. Let me cut this one. I think my time is up. I'm sending the link just now.